Do you guys ever eat pastrami? I'm talking about the real deal deli meal. Wet brine, cured, rubbed, smoked, steamed, sliced thin and served on rye bread with spicy ground mustard. Or served on a Reuben sandwich with sauerkraut, Swiss cheese, and Russian dressing. Or just eaten by itself, honestly. There's not much else out there that's better. A couple buddies and I have an annual tradition of whipping up a pastrami from scratch, getting the families together, and like my pappy likes to say, chow down, brown cow. Literally, brown cow. We're gonna start off with a whole packer brisket. Credit goes to Joshua Weissman for this recipe with a few modifications of my own. This one is about 13 pounds total. That's one hefty hunk of meat. We're gonna start by separating the point and the flat. You see this little seam of fat here? This is called the decal. We're just gonna run our knife straight through here and follow along this seam until it starts thinning out. Once it thins out, angle your knife downward and just go straight down. It's like solving a meaty puzzle. We're also gonna round out some of these edges, cutting off any flappy pieces so they don't burn in the smoker. If you see any thicker fatty pieces, trim those down to about 1/4 inch of fat. This point here looks pretty good to me.
As we move on to trimming the flat, all you really gotta do is pay attention to any sharp or rigid areas that'll make the meat less aerodynamic. You just wanna round everything off. Don't think too much about it. If it's not round, make it round. Easy as that.
Flat's done, and that's it. Look at that brisket. All dressed up and nowhere to go but the brine. Now we're gonna make our brine. Grab a big container that's food safe. I'm using a 12-quart Cambro, Amazon link in the description below. And to this, we will add 312 grams of dark brown sugar because we like our pastrami sweet and sassy. 452 grams of kosher salt, Diamond Crystal, the sparkle of the kitchen, 14 grams of coriander seed to keep things spicy, 26 grams of mustard seed for a little zing, 12 grams of cloves for that mysterious flavor, 24 grams of Prague powder #1, which is our cure, like a spa treatment for our brisket, 16 grams of crushed red pepper for a tiny kick, 8 crushed up bay leaves. Who even knows what bay leaves are for? 4 sprigs of bruised up rosemary, Tough Day at the Gym rosemary, 10 cloves of smashed garlic, smashed like my dreams of becoming a professional chef, 14 juniper berries, tiny flavor bombs, 2 gallons of cold water. We're using bottled from the fridge because we're fancy like that. Give this a nice stir until everything is dissolved. It's like making a savory witch's brew.
Once everything is dissolved, throw your brisket in here and make sure everything is submerged. If you notice the brisket floating, weigh it down with a bowl or something. Just make sure it's food safe. Put a lid over it and place it in the fridge for about 5 to 6 days. Today is Sunday, so I'm gonna plan on pulling this out Friday night. Patience, young Padawan. Good things take time. 3 to 4 days in, I like to flip the briskets so they get even brining throughout. It's like giving them a little flip to make sure they're not too comfortable. The briskets are heavier, so they're less likely to float, but we'll still weigh them down with the bowl. And back into the fridge for another few days. Okay, it's Friday night. We're just gonna remove the briskets and pour out the brine. The smells here are phenomenal, just super aromatic, sweet, beefy. You gotta be here. We run the briskets under the faucet in order to get any coarse spices and herbs rinsed off. We also need to desalinate the briskets, so we're gonna fill this back up with water. And pop the briskets back in with our makeshift weight. And set in the fridge overnight, and we'll smoke this up tomorrow.
Okay, so this has had a chance to desalinate overnight, so now we're done with this container. It's time to take the brisket out, rub it up, and smoke it. Let's dry our brisket really well so we get a nice crust. Remember, in crust we trust. Now we gotta make our rub. We're gonna go into a food processor with 22 grams of black peppercorns, spice it up, 20 grams of coriander seeds, flavor explosion, 20 grams of mustard seed, tang it up. Blend this together and break some of these spices down into a coarse consistency and then toss in a bowl. To this, add 50 52 grams of light brown sugar, sweet and savory, 24 grams of onion powder, flavor booster, 24 grams of garlic powder, garlic goodness, 16 grams of smoked paprika for that smoky punch. Whisk this all together until fully combined. And now, we play a game of rub-a-dub-dub. Rub all sides of your brisket up with your spice blend. And this is ready to go on the smoker. I'll see you outside.
Here we are at the pit. We'll go in with our lump charcoal and get that lit with the flamethrower, followed by going on in a lattice formation with our wood, which is a combination of red oak and white oak. Kind of give this a little Texas barbecue flair. We're gonna shoot for 225 degrees Fahrenheit.
This video is brought to you by our sponsor, Woodchuck Firewood. Woodchuck has all kinds of different wood. They're based out of Valley Center, Kansas, but they ship their wood all over the country. If you're on the lookout for wood splits that you need for your barbecue, your fire pit, or your fireplace, Woodchuck Firewood is your one-stop shop. Type in the link below into your browser to access their website and place an order, and tell them that Fire and Ferment sent you over, and they'll take good care of you.
Once we're up to temp, we put our brisket on and put in our ThermoPro TP980 thermometer to monitor the cook in live action and give us real-time feedback on how the cook is going. We're just going to keep it here until the internal temp is about 150 degrees. Ladies and gents, gather round and behold the magnificent ThermoPro TP980 leave-in probe thermometer. This isn't just any old thermometer. Oh no, this bad boy is straight from the future, coupled with both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi technology. Picture this, you're running your backyard offset smoker, achieving that dreamy smoke flavor with a real wood fire, but at the price of constant vigilance. Sound familiar? Well, fret no more, my fellow barbecue aficionados. Introducing the ThermoPro TP980, your culinary BFF, your grilling guru, your ticket to indoor relaxation while your meat cooks to perfection outside. Gone are the days of sitting by the smoker, obsessing over the temps while your family lounges in the cozy indoors. With this state-of-the-art thermometer, you can monitor not just your meat, but also the ambient conditions of your smoker from the comfort of your couch. Check out this fancy app, so easy to use that even your tech-averse grandma could do it. Here it is in action. Not only is it monitoring the internal temp of the pastrami, but it's also tracking the ambient temperature of the smoker. So why wait? Click on that Amazon link below and use code FERMENT50 at checkout and snag $50 off your order. Your barbecue game is about to get a serious upgrade. Act fast. This deal is hotter than a summer barbecue. Get your ThermoPro TP980 now before the price goes up. So we've been smoking this for 4 hours. Let's take a look and see how it's going. Our internal temp is registering at 150 to 160-ish with our ThermoPro Lightning. We're ready for the next step. We're gonna preheat our oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit and get about a quart of water on the stovetop to a boil. Time to take the pastrami off the smoker. Let's place it in a roasting pan with a wire rack. And pour in our boiling water at the bottom of the pan. Next, cover this tightly with thick foil and place in our preheated oven for another 2 hours or until the internal temp of the brisket reaches 203 to 205. And I'll see you guys in 1 second. We're at approximately 204 to 205. We now wrap our pastrami in butcher paper and let it rest for about 30 minutes on the counter. Time to swaddle this smoky masterpiece in its butcher paper blanket, like tucking a baby brisket into a corned beef cocoon.
Let's make a Russian dressing for Reuben sandwiches. We're gonna get a bowl and go in with 1 cup of mayonnaise, the OG condiment, 1/3 cup of ketchup, the classic, 2 tablespoons of hot sauce, spice it up, 2.5 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, the secret ingredient, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika for that extra kick, 2 tablespoons of sliced chives, fancy garnish, 1 tablespoon of high quality horseradish sauce for that zing, 1 clove of grated garlic for days, and salt and pepper to taste, cause we're not savages. Mix this together and adjust seasonings to taste.
Time to unwrap and slice our pastrami. You guys gotta just be here to smell this. It's the pleasing perfume of perfectly pickled pastrami. I like to go nice and thin on this and make sure you slice against the grain of the brisket. Remember, the point and the flat grains run perpendicular, so you'll have to be aware of the grain direction. Let the knife do the work. You'll want to keep those biceps rested so they can pick up the massive sandwiches we're about to make. We're going to be making 2 different kinds of sandwiches today. We'll start with our classic pastrami sandwich. Here, we've got some of our homemade sourdough rye sandwich bread. Dress both bread slices with our homemade stone ground mustard, piled high with slices of our pastrami, and served up. Next, we'll make a Reuben sandwich, which also includes our homemade rye bread, followed by our Russian dressing on both sides, piled high with thin slices of pastrami, Swiss cheese, and our homemade sauerkraut. Then, we'll give a nice butter toast to heat everything and melt the cheese. Guys, this is probably my favorite thing to eat. That smoke is so smooth and the spices give balanced sweet and savory notes. The cure on this meat brings the flavor to a whole nother level as well, almost like a good charcuterie meat. The only thing that would make this better would be if I had a meat slicer to make the slices super thin. That would be fun to try later on. I highly recommend you guys go through this process. It is so worth it.
That is how we smoke a pastrami at fire and ferment. If you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click on that little bell icon so you don't miss any new content. I love you guys, and stick around.